Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Lake County Regular School Board meeting of August 23rd, 2021. Before we begin the work of the district, let us stand for a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yeah, amen.
Okay, Superintendent.
Well, good evening. Board members, were there any changes or deletions to tonight's agenda? Okay. Then we'll move on to approval of the minutes. I'm asking for approval of the minutes from the school board workshop, August 2nd, 2021.
I have a motion?
So moved.
Second? All those in favor?
Aye.
5-0. Okay. Now we're going to begin public input. First, I want to say this is amazing to see this many people here and engaged. With this many people, we're not quite organized, so I wanted to share with you that we have, my hope was to have one from each group come up, pro and con. My mistake is we are overflowing, so we have people outside. So what I might do is ask y'all, if you signed a card, to raise your hand, and we'll bring y'all, and then if you could make room then for other folks, that would be like amazing. Does that kind of seem reasonable? Okay. Okay, and before we begin, Mr. Johnson?
Yes, sir. I was recently requested to review the information that was published at the emergency meeting on August 17th of the State Board of Education and provide the board some guidance in where the positions of the State Board of Education took us as far as what were the school board's legal obligations. In that particular meeting, you might be aware, Alachua and Broward County came before the State Board of Education at their request because they had eliminated an opt-out provision for mask mandates in their school systems, or came up with a opt-out that was not suitable, such as the Alachua schools opt-out was that you went and applied for a Hope Scholarship, which meant you declared that you were being harassed as a student and that you had to change schools. The state board ruled those districts violated the recent emergency rule that was signed by the Surgeon General and the recent Board of Education rule. They came down in implementation of the parents, I'm trying to remember the name of it, the Parent Bill of Rights, which went into effect on July 1st of this year. During the meeting, the chairman of the State Board of Education, which in the system of K-20 education in Florida is essentially at the head of that pyramid of officials and supervisors who comprise the K-20 education in this state. That gentleman, Mr. Grady, said that the Surgeon General, the Governor, and the State Board of Education have all ruled on the issue of wearing masks in schools, and that the law says that school districts may not have a mask mandate unless parents are given the ability to opt out of the mandate. That there was no local decision that the State Board of Education felt needed to be made on the matter, with the exception of making sure that an opt-out mandate was available. Since the passage of the Parents' Bill of Rights, it has become quite clear, at least at this point in time, what the legislature's intent as it relates to the ability of a parent to direct the health care of his child. It seems obvious, whether you're in favor or not in favor of wearing masks to school, that the right to make health care decisions is part of that decision of whether or not to wear a mask at school. It seems obvious that Also, that there are options available in the opt-out as long as an opt-out is generated that produces just that, an ability not to participate in whichever system that you have set up, whether it's opting out of wearing a mask or opting out of not wearing a mask. The Parents' Bill of Rights prohibits government entities specifically, such as the school board, from infringing on the fundamental rights of a parent to direct to health care. In Rule 64 DER, it stated quite clearly, this is the rule that was promulgated by the Surgeon General recently. It states quite clearly that, quote, students may wear masks or facial coverings as a mitigation measure. However, the school must allow for a parent or legal guardian of the student to opt out of the student from wearing a face covering or mask, close quote. The school board falls within the chain of command of the K-20 school system as the entity that operates and manages the schools within the school district. And a school district in the state of Florida are each of the 67 counties. Florida Statute 1000.03 states that the legislature shall establish education policy and enact education laws, and that the State Board of Education shall ensure the enforcement of all laws and rules. They note in Section 1001 that the powers of the local school district include the power to determine policies and programs consistent with state law and rule. Local education authorities have the duty to fully and faithfully comply with school laws, state law, standards and rules. The school board's obligation is to perform duties and to exercise those responsibilities assigned to it by rules of the State Board of Education or the Commissioner of Education. That also is a citation from a statute. Essentially, school boards have to require that all laws and rules of the State Board of Education or of the district school board are properly enforced. There are many other sections like this that go through the whole complex of enforcement of rules and regulations by the different entities within the state school system. The State Board of Education's rules and regulations supersede what the local school districts might do or want to do at any point in time. It seems clear after looking at the recording of the special meeting and reading the executive and emergency orders of the Department of Health and the State Board of Education that the expectations for compliance with the mandates of the Parents' Bill of Rights, the State Board of Education, and the Surgeon General's interpretation of the need to have a realistic and usable opt-out for any mandate are quite clear. Any pursuant of a course contrary to that would be in violation of statute, and it also would be in violation of the school board's obligation to comply with the laws that are passed by the legislature and the rules and regulations that are promulgated by the State Board of Education. In addition to that, for those of you who came this evening to speak, just so that's clear from the beginning, there's no item on the agenda this evening that would allow any action to be taken at this meeting tonight. You have to, under Florida's sunshine law, you're required to notice in advance any item that might come before the vote. The members of the public are still permitted, and as a matter of fact, mandated that they be allowed to participate and offer any evidence or testimony regarding any issue that comes before the board. But as far as this evening is concerned, there is no issue that's properly before the board for that any action can be taken on.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Okay. A little more house cleaning. We're going to have typically discussion is limited to 30 minutes on a topic. Based on the number of people, I've extended it to 1 hour and 30 minutes maximum. At that time, I will end the conversation. So I have the timer set here. We have a few folks that have called in by Zoom, and they will be at the end. If we're able to get to them, then we will then listen to them. I've divided up into a couple stacks so I'm hoping to be fair with back and forth. And as is always the policy, that this board recognizes elected officials, and so, or their representative, and we will be beginning with them. So we have one person that has nothing to do with this, so I did share with her she could come first. And so I'd like to ask Mrs. Cronin. Okay, and if you would give, I want to qualify this, that in our policy, we ask for your name and address for the record. If you do not want to give your address, we ask for it. It is not required, okay? So Mrs. Cronin?
Good evening, board members, superintendent. So I'm going to start off tonight by telling you that I'm glad to see that we have another vaccine day scheduled. And I want you to know that we need to get as many of our employees vaccinated as we can. And I think it's time you offer them a bonus. All vaccinated employees. It's going to save you money in the long run. They're going to be coming to work instead of being home. And it's going to save lives. Vaccines and masks work. You know, last year we had many meetings before school started. We put safety protocols together. This year we did nothing. Numbers were worse than they were last year. Safety protocols were changed to give administration discretion on how to open their campus. I've been to campuses where I could not get on at all. I had to talk to the speaker. Other campuses where I could just go free wherever I wanted to go. What happened to following the CDC guidelines? Last year I heard you over and over again say you were following the CDC guidelines. There's no guidelines right now, except for what Governor Ron DeSantis has told you to do, and he's not a medical professional. Mask mandates need to be on this agenda. I just heard the attorney say that it's not on the agenda. I've been to many meetings where you've put an emergency item on the agenda, and I think this needs to be placed on the agenda tonight. It needs to be voted on. We are out of control.
Go ahead, Ms.
The numbers are crazy in our schools right now. The kids that are going home, the staff that's going home. And I really feel as though the only way you're going to get control is to close it down for a month.
Mrs. Cronin, speak.
Employees have lost confidence in you.
Please.
I've talked to employees that are in the hospital. I've talked to employees that are having intravenously put through medications, and they feel like you're not with them. They feel like you don't care. They're telling me that you're putting money over their lives. You know, I hear you say your hands are tied. But are they really tied? Yep. I heard the attorney talk about the 2 counties that got brought up to the state for putting a mask mandate. I have watched and listened to many other counties calling for emergency meetings. And those meetings end with a mask mandate. Please do the right thing. I believe you care. I do believe you care for our employees and for our kids. Okay? There is nothing that's going to make a kid sick from wearing a mask. Kids don't even care that they have masks on.
Please. Thank you, Mrs. Cronin. Your 3 minutes. Thank you.
Don't wait till we have deaths on our hands.
Thank you.
It's not going to sit right with you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, listen, folks, we are neighbors and we're friends and we work together. Let's be civil to each other, please, please. If you don't agree, then merely just be quiet for a second. That's all. So you're going to hear different opinions tonight. Let us all be kind to each other, please. Okay? Now that I'd like to invite Amanda Geltz, representative from our representative Anthony Sabatini. I will allow cheering. That was good.
Good evening. Thank you guys so much for allowing me to be here. Unfortunately, Representative Sabatini was traveling the state today, and so he sent me on behalf of our office. I am the district aide, so I'm the one who answers the millions of phone calls that we get on a daily basis. And so he wanted to send me, because I see firsthand the amount of calls that we get on a very regular basis. From our office, he would like you to remember that we do not want any mandates. No mandates of any kind. that would take away the choice from our parents. I personally listen to parents cry on a daily basis, multiple times a day, because they're concerned that their choices are being taken away and that they're effectively being told that they don't know how to parent their own children. So he has sent me here tonight on his behalf to let you know that we appreciate all that you've done so far. But from our office and on behalf of our constituents, we want to ensure you that we are not in support of any mandate that would take away any parental choice of any kind.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Mr. Ralph Smith, Lake County's GOP State Representative, Committeeman.
Thank you, Chairman. And I may say, if I, to start out, Steve Johnson stole most of my thunder as far as the arguments. I thought you said that very well. My point, I'm not a doctor, I'm not an expert in this field. I do like that a lot of you folks have known people who've gone through this. As a matter of fact, as of a week ago, my wife and I had a mild case of it, thankfully, and we're 64. We're supposed to be the at-risk group. The reality is, it is not a fun disease, not a fun thing to have, and ours was, like I say, very mild. We lost a very good friend, 30-year-old young man named Tyler yesterday, who died, or I believe it was Saturday actually, worked at Chick-fil-A. So when I tell you, I think the mask mandates in regards to forcing children to wear them in schools would be a mistake. I say that with a great deal of sensitivity, understanding people have gone through very grievous times with loved ones, and it's not just older people like it was a year ago. The thing is, my bottom line as a parent and a grandparent now of 4 beautiful grandchildren, is I trust the parents. I was talking to a friend of mine who'll talk, and he'll have an opposite opinion, and he'll give you a lot of information, data, which is good from his perspective. But at the end of the day, I believe parents have a vested interest in their children far more than government, teachers, administrators, superintendents, school board members, what have you. Grandparents are right there too. Actually, we're probably a little better if you want to know the truth. But the reality is, you need to allow parents to make those decisions. Look, I promise you, I will wear a mask every time the rest of my life, whether it's recommended or not, when I get on a commercial jetliner, right? Because those things are just, they're a mess. And there's other times where people make, but that's called choice, it's called freedom. And so as a Republican state committeeman, you know, this isn't so much a political thing at this point, although it seems to be lining up in some quarters that way. I think it's more of a practical thing, and allowing people to make their choices that they feel they need to make choice, not only for their own health, but for their minor children. The only anecdotal thing I'll give you, and I'm not big on anecdotal evidence, is I've got a 6'3" grandson, 240 pounds, who last year, he wore his mask and like he was supposed to. And the reason you guys required it last year in part was because that's what the governor, or Richard Corcoran, the Department of Education Secretary, had said you should do. You followed the rules that you were given by the authorities that you have to obey, just like our children have to obey their teachers and their principals, and ultimately you guys. So I just ask you to be consistent in that and continue to do what you're doing. As a Republican state committee, it's my duty to make sure you have good leaders that will give you right direction for future crises, but I hope we never have to deal with this again.
Thank you, Mr. Smith.
Thank you.
Okay. And now we'll start. Dr. Hussain.
Hello everybody. I'm here as a physician. I'm not here as a Republican, Democrat, Liberal, Conservative. I work as an oncologist. I go to the hospital. I was on call this weekend, and I can tell you it's really bad. And the sad part that last year when I used to be on call, most of the patients were 60s, 70s, and older. On my list, there are a lot of patients who are 40 and younger. So I'm just going to present data. I'm not going to ask you to mandate or not to mandate. I'm just going to present data why masks are good and important. And I just want to educate, because if you want to make the choice, I'm all for that. I think this freedom is important. But I just hope with education you can make the right choice and at least encourage your kids to wear the mask, because this is really part of our fight against COVID. It's like going into a war. The pandemic is a war. The nurses are exhausted, the doctors are exhausted, a lot of staff are getting infected and have to go home. So everybody has to do his part, or her part. Having the kids wear masks is not just going to protect your kid, it's going to protect a lot of people in the community. Because the kid can spread the disease, and sometimes you don't have symptoms, and can give it to vulnerable patients. There are many studies that actually show the importance of masks. One important one was from a school district in North Carolina, or the education department, which was done by the ABC Science Collaborative with Duke University, very renowned university. They looked last year because they mandated the mask, and they made sure that the students are following the rules. They looked at almost 1.1 million students. They had 308 secondary cases in students and 55 among staff. Those are cases of infection within the school, so kids give it to another kid. Among 1,100,000, that's less than 1%. The recommendation was that masks did help. Masks alone don't help by themselves. We still have to do social distancing. We still encourage vaccination. University of Alabama looked at their mask protocol in their hospital because they mandated the mask in their own hospital. They saw 68% drop in the transmission of COVID. Cochrane reviewed around 67 articles, and the recommendation was that masks do work in preventing infections. Mass General, another big hospital in Boston, looked around 10,000 healthcare workers, and when they mandated the mask in all their hospitals and clinics, they found that around 3.4% weekly decline since they started. So every week there's a decline in the transmission of the disease. I'm just going to give you some numbers that I didn't find on the internet. These are numbers that I'm living since this COVID started. In January, when the vaccine started, we had 120 cases in these Virginia Villages Hospital. In June, when people started getting vaccinated, we had 8 patients. Today, we had 161 patients in these Virginia Villages Hospital. These are not made up numbers, these are patients with. Just want to, yeah. I would just end it by, I would encourage you to consider wearing masks and helping your kids wear.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Hussain. Okay. Zach Hussain?
Hi. Yeah, my name is Zach Hussain, and I'm a senior in high school. And I've seen so many of not my friends, but just fellow classmates be absent because they got exposed to COVID. I'm a senior, how are you supposed to get through college if there's not even online school for some classes? What do you do if you get exposed? Your schooling is basically done for 2 weeks. Kids I know are getting really sick. They can't even breathe, they can't even go up the stairs. Some of them are singers, they can't even talk anymore. The safety should be the rule, not the exception. If you want to have a mandate, sure, let parents sign the note to not let kids wear the mask, but the rule should be safety. I don't want to get to school and then get kicked out because the kid next to me got sick. And I don't wear my mask just for me, I wear it for everyone. It's a collective sense of health. If we all wear a mask, we can get through this so much quicker, and it matters, right? Imagine being a kid in school. How are you not going to learn for 2 weeks? You're supposed to value education here, you're supposed to value each other. How can you have freedom if no one can even go to school because everyone's getting sick? If, soccer players can't even run anymore. It's ridiculous. We need to be smarter, we need to think safer, and think about each other. On this sign over here, it says, is it good for the students? Yes. Yes, it is good for the students. A sick student isn't a good student. If your head is throbbing, you can't even breathe up the stairs, how are you going to focus on your school? How are you going to get to a good college and do good things for your country if you're into that? What are you going to do if you're sick and you can't even talk, breathe, think, remember? It's not healthy and it's not safe, and I strongly advise you as a student to please just get the mask mandate. I know you're not going to vote on tonight, but it hurts me to see kids just not be able to live. People are stressed out, they're freaking out just going to school because these kids aren't wearing masks anymore. What's the harm of wearing a piece of cloth, right? It's a piece of cloth. How uncomfortable is this? But just this can help people. It helps people mentally, it helps people in school. It's important, all right? And as a student, I'm telling you this because this is going to affect me. And it's important that we do the right thing here. And as it says, is it good for the students? It absolutely is good for the students.
Thank you. Okay. Mrs. Page, Danny Page.
Thank you.
Just kind of wondering where y'all were at with the flu.
Okay, so my name's Danny Page. I'm with Inside Claremont, Lake County. The topics I'm going to be touching on tonight are: one, children are extremely low risk from death, hospitalization, or other adverse events due to COVID-19 and the Delta variant, by the way. Number two, children are not super spreaders. Three, mask mandates, especially in schools, do not reduce school or community transmission. All the supporting data was previously emailed to you, so I'm not up here just blowing smoke. The CDC estimates, your precious CDC, estimates that through May 2021, there were 27 million COVID infections in children. 23 million were symptomatic. Also, the same applies, and this yields a maximum infection rate, or IFR, if you will, of 0.001% for systematic infection in children. This compares to around 12.5 million systematic flu infections in that same age group in any given year that yielded an IFR of 0.003. Thus, COVID is significantly less dangerous for children than the flu. Again, where were y'all at for the flu? The same applies for Delta, which, while more transmissible, appears to be less deadly, not more for children. Again, you all have this data. Children are not super spreaders, even unvaccinated. This study from the CDC, your Exhibit A, front and back there, Bill, and back, and then Exhibit B, Christy, found that each student infection generated an additional 0.77 infections. So you have 27 students infected that only yielded 21 additional infections clearly related to a student, while each teacher generated an additional 2.6 infections, which would be 3.4 times the rate of the children. This is important because it shows that children are effectively dead ends when it comes to transmission, even unvaccinated, meaning that they cannot be responsible for driving community transmission. Conversely, according to the CDC data in front of you, teachers were actually central to in-school transmission networks and played a substantial role in school transmission and subsequent chains of infection to other educators, students, and households, highlighting the importance of preventing infections among educators in particular. Researchers from Johns Hopkins recently found a mortality rate of 0 for children who were not extremely ill with prior conditions such as leukemia. Also, on cdc.gov, you have this information regarding masks. We, quote, did not find evidence that surgical-type masks are effective in reducing laboratory-confirmed influenza transmission, either when worn by infected persons, which with the source control, or by persons in the general community to reduce their susceptibility. Please refer, Mark, to your Exhibit C in front of you. In the same study, the authors state, quote, we do not see a correlation between mask mandates and COVID-19 rates among students, end quote. A longitudinal study consistently shows no impact of mask mandates on either in-school transmission or community transmission. In fact, the rate of transmission is routinely higher in both schools and the community in areas where masks are mandated. I'm going to wrap it up. With these facts, it's clear that if we are to continue masking for our children for COVID, with vaccines universally available to those that are actually at risk, there will be no logical point that we will ever unmask our kids.
Okay, so now we begin the part where that's everyone I knew that was in the room already. So I think what we'll do is we can just start this way. We're going to start across this way and just go row by row. And then once you've spoken, if you'll free up your seat for someone else, that would be kind. Okay, so is there anyone here that, right on the front row, that, did you? Okay. And your name?
Crystal Wolf.
Crystal Wolf. Thank you, Mrs. Wolf. Okay, you have 3 minutes.
So I am Crystal Wolf, and I have 2 students currently attending Lake County Schools in Mineola. And I just want to say
Wait,
that...
excuse me. Let's let them close the door because we can't hear you. So far, my master plan is working. Perfect.
You're doing good. You're doing good.
We have 7 speakers. You sign up to speak? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 9 now. 7. Well, that's 7. So we've got a good minute. Now more. That's it.
For those that are just coming in, what we're doing is after, we're just going to go row by row because we have the cards, and those that filled out a card, I'm just going to ask you to, if you filled out and out, raise your hand, and then we'll find it, and y'all will come up, okay? And then once you have spoken, if you would free up your seat, that would be kind, okay? You're back on.
All right. Okay, so I'm Crystal Wolf, and I have 2 children currently attending Lake County Schools in Mineola. And first of all, I would like to thank the school board for the last meeting, the 5 of you who did not second the vote to make a mask mandate. I appreciate that, thank you. I do not want my children to wear a mask. Both of my kids suffered health issues by being forced to wear a mask to school last year. I spoke about this when there was a mandate. My youngest child is repeating the 1st grade because of that mask mandate. I will say that this start of the 3rd week of school, I'll give you a report. She is doing much better this year, being able to concentrate and not having health issues that she was experiencing by wearing a mask. She did very well in her first spelling test this year, and I want her to continue to be successful. That success will come with not being forced to wear a mask. The same with my high school student. She is much happier and does not come home with headaches and other health issues that she suffered from last year. As an adult, I actually am suffering a skin issue on my face because I had to wear a mask to work. I ended up with dermatitis, and it was on the verge of impetigo because of wearing a mask for 8 hours a day. I don't want my little children and my teenager to deal with what I'm having to deal with right now. My husband and I, we want our children to use their God-given immune system to be able to fight off illnesses, including COVID and whatever other variant that they come up with. On another note, there is a document called the Constitution, and that document is what all Americans, all of us out here and out there, should want to live by. We should not want to be mandated on what we should do, and we should not be wanting to be governed by our government and school boards. I don't want the school board forcing something on my children that I know is detrimental to their health and their well-being. I will say this, I know you will hear everyone's speech, and I know tonight, as the attorney said, you'll not make any decisions, but I'm sure there's one board member who is salivating for a mask mandate. She'll have her say. But if you decide to go against my children's health, then there will be a problem. We are in our rights under the governor's order to have a choice as the parents of our children, and we will continue to go by his orders. My family will not comply with a mask mandate. Freedom over fear.
Okay. Oh, who's next? Did you put a card in?
Yes.
Okay, please. Your name?
Jessica Chrisley. Good evening. My name is Jessica Chrisley. I'm from Mount Dora, Florida. I am a mama too. I have a 4-year-old who's in VPK. Now, a lot of parents have been up here. Everyone has made a lot of points. I'm not up here to make a point. I'm actually here to make a statement, and I'm actually here to ask you guys, if you are parents, if you make a decision, if this was your kids, if this is your kids, and you're in our place, would you want the government telling you that you have to mandate your kids have to be put in a mask for 6 hours a day or longer at school? Especially living in the state of Florida. Look at your heat index. Look at the temperatures. My 4-year-old is a great example. This year, my son was rushed to the ER, okay? Come to find out that my son may have a heart condition, okay? Or a type of, doctors can't say it's asthma. You wanna know what rushed him to the hospital? When he got told he had to wear a mask at school, at a daycare center. A daycare center where you have 2, 3, and 4-year-olds, okay? Why should a 2, 3, 4-year-old have to wear a mask? Again, all parents are up here, they're presenting numbers, and they are telling you, okay? It's not children that are passing COVID. Another question. Every day there are viruses, there are colds. Our immune system builds, right? That's how our immune system gets strong. We learn to fight a virus. This is the same thing. Yes, COVID's taken lives. Flu's taken lives. RSV's taken lives. Pneumonia has taken lives, right? If we ever catch that, what do our immune systems do? Our body fights it. We learn to get stronger. Mask, a mandate for any child in school. It is the parent's choice. It is not the government. It is not Joe Biden. It is a parent's choice. It is the same thing when you become a parent. You make the choice if you want your child to have shots, right? You either say you're for vaccines or you're against vaccines. We as parents have a choice. All the parents that are here today, all the parents that are watching this, all the parents that are going to talk to the parents that are here tonight, we have a choice to decide. I ask you, hear everyone's side. I ask you, instead of mandating, meet in the middle. For those that choose to wear a mask, they wear it. They protect themselves, they have their kids. For the parents who want to be given a choice, allow us to decide for ourselves and our kids.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Good evening. Lake County
Excuse
School Board.
me. Could I get your name? I need to find it.
I am Bishop Ludy Lopez. I live in Leesburg.
You filled out a card, yes?
Yes, I
Okay.
did.
Okay, now go ahead.
Good evening, Lake County School Board members. I am Bishop Ludy Lopez, the pastor of Senda Church, a multicultural and bilingual church here in downtown Tavares. I am also the Lake County Director of Protect Our Children project. I represent the voices of many cultures that have children and grandchildren in our Lake County communities. I am a resilient Puerto Rican and a former military spouse who overcame many great challenges in life with God's help, free will, and common sense. My two professional daughters are the proof of it. The oldest, a business owner, videographer, producer, and the youngest, a police officer in DC. I never needed a government mandate to raise my two healthy, highly educated daughters, but I succeeded. The issue is not the mass of the vaccine, but the mandate. Parental choice still works, and all your 4 members of the board and the rest of the team are proof of it. Your parents raised you well, and they didn't need a mandate. Just God, free will, and common sense. The will is a divine gift given to man. The highest authority in heaven and earth, our Creator, respected His creation so much that He released mankind into the world with free will. Let us respect what God respects, the will of the people. The majority of American citizens are not willing to give God's gift away. The majority of Americans, including myself, respect what God respects, the will of the people. It seems that some people are willing to give their will to the government rather than to God. According to the CDC, obesity is a serious because it's associated with poor mental health outcome and reduced quality of life. Obesity is also associated with the leading causes of death in the United States and worldwide, including diabetes, heart disease, stroke, and some type of cancer. Even when obesity is the leading cause of death in the United States and worldwide, I have not yet seen people advocating for a healthy diet mandate. CDC estimates that there are approximately 20 million new STD infections each year in USA, almost half of them among young people ages 15 to 24, but I have not yet seen advocating sex abstinence mandates.
Please wrap it up. Your 3 minutes are up.
Okay. Can I wrap it up now?
Real quick.
The last
Yep.
sentence? Let us be real and honest. This vaccine mandate is not about health concern. It's about taking away the will of the right of the people, or simply the pleasure of being a mental health bully because of the gratification of the lack of identity. Lake County has identity, and we will not play monkey see, monkey do For the
Please.
love of our children and the new generation, let us remain respectful on what God respect, the will of the people. Parental choice respect the two choices and respect
Thank you very
what God
much.
respects.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, the will of the people.
Okay. If you give us your name.
Stephanie Dukes.
Okay, Mrs. Dukes, you'll have 3 minutes.
I'm Stephanie Dukes, and I am a candidate for the Florida House of Representatives, as some has recognized. I stand before you today because I believe in representative of the people and for the people, speaking on policy consideration by good, sound decision-making for productive learning environments. Using the facts and recommendations from public health officials without monetary or political gain. As a retired educator, students are at the core of my first concern. A friend shared this article by a 14-year-old student from Parkland, Atlanta, and I quote, "From young age, our parents taught us right from wrong. We're supposed to treat others with respect and in a way that we would want to be treated. We're supposed to educate ourselves with facts and make reasonable decisions based upon the facts. We're not taught the ins and outs of politics. The things our parents taught us are valuable. I have educated myself, and here are the facts. Florida has the highest rate of COVID hospitalization for children in the country, and the number of hospitalized children grow every day. The sharpest increase of admitted patients were in children under the age of 12 who are too young to be vaccinated, and masks are their only form of protection. 38% of young people are aged 12 to 19 have been vaccinated in Florida, and less than half of the total population is fully vaccinated. In the past week, our state has recorded its highest ever single-day COVID-19 case numbers for multiple days in a row. Masks, properly worn, has been proven time and time again to be effective at reducing transmission of COVID-19. There has been some credible research, none at all, to support adverse effect of mask wearing. The protection of young people, the future of this country, must come above all. What of mental health? The pandemic has ignited a mental health crisis for young people who have lost over a year of their childhood and have been deprived of the social and emotional enrichment they get from personal interaction and in-person learning. We need to be back in school, and we need to feel safe physically." End of quote. And I close with another article out of Good Housekeeping from PS 89, which is located across from the World Trade Center. And I quote, "Though Roe was a new PS 89 teacher, this was her first 14th year as a teacher, and she loved it, loved the kids, loved seeing they thrill when they grasped the tricky math problems or discovered the way of writing. She had the tradition of sitting down her students on the first day of class and asking, 'What's my big job as your teacher?' And they would guess, 'To teach us reading, math.' Then Roe would tell them, 'My biggest job is to keep you safe.'" That's what we ask for you.
Thank you,
as
Mrs.
school
Duke.
board
Thank you.
members. Thank you.
Okay, next. Name, please.
Good morning, my name is Justin, or afternoon, my name is Justin Coleman.
Okay, Mr. Coleman, you'll have 3 minutes.
Thank you. My purpose here today is to reaffirm what's expected of our local government employees. You all took an oath of office. I, your name, a citizen of the state of Florida and the United States of America, and being employed by or an officer of Lake, and a recipient of public funds as such an employer or officer, do hereby solemnly swear or affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the state of Florida. You are elected public officials. You are public servants. You serve all of us, not just some. Okay. You have one job. One. That's to protect every child. Not just certain children, but every single child. And Children under 12 cannot get vaccinated. So there is only one thing that's going to protect them. Only one. Mr. Mathias, you replied to a concerned parent's email saying 72 positive students out of 30,000 wasn't really a big deal. Well, I have a son, and his mother's refusing to get him
That is not what
vaccinated.
I said.
I have a son, and his mother's refusing to get him vaccinated. I want him vaccinated. Without a mandate, he's walking into Severi's High, where I haven't gone a day without getting a phone call from Mr. Stein about a new positive case. Where's my choice as a parent in this situation? Because I want him masked, his mom doesn't. It's time to stop worrying about getting elected and doing what you've been elected to do already, is to protect our children. In all honesty, the only person that is fit to serve on this board is Dr. Burns. She is the only one advocating for the children and not placating to the parents for their votes. In light of parents' choice being the topic of the day, I'm making a choice as a parent to opt my daughter out of the dress code. I mean, it's super discriminatory towards girls anyway, since it's my choice and all, right? Do you see how silly that sounds? Schools have been telling parents what their kids can and cannot do on a school campus since compulsory school started in the early 1920s. My own students have expressed to me that they're scared. They're looking for the adults in their lives to put them first and instead of their feelings. It's time the board does just that. You recommend masks, but I see only one of you wearing it. I see Carnegie every Sunday recommending masks, but she's not wearing one herself. I'm going to leave you with this one. You really are supposed to set the example. You're the example makers. And this is something that I really would like for you to think on. A lie doesn't become the truth.
Thank you, Mr.
Wrong-
Coleman.
I'm almost finished. It's my last line. A lie does not become the truth, wrong does not become right, and evil does not become good just because it's accepted by the majority.
Thank you.
Booker T. Washington.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Jennifer Anthony.
I'm sorry, again?
Jennifer Anthony.
You can go ahead.
Okay. I'm here tonight. I have 4 children in the Lake County school system, and I am here to show my support for a parent's choice and to keep masks optional for our students. A face mask is a medical device, and medical decisions should be left up to the parents. I also have concerns about the quarantine protocols that are in place this year. If a student tests positive for COVID-19, then exposed students must quarantine. However, if a student is vaccinated, they do not have to quarantine. This makes no sense to me because it is well known that fully vaccinated people can catch and spread COVID-19. If the school board fully truly cared about limiting the exposure of students, I feel all exposed students would be submitted to the same quarantine protocols. This policy does not feel like it's based on a medical or scientific reasoning. I also have a friend that would like me to bring up a point of view that's not often considered with masks on hard of hearing children who have very much difficulties that are used to lip reading, and it's little thought of the effects that the masks have on those students as well. So that's all I have, and thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Okay, I think we had, did you fill out a card, sir?
Yes, I did.
And the name? Oh, he came in late? Well, sorry about that. I'll get this thing down in a second. I'm sorry, your name?
My name is Gregory Wilhelm. I'm from Mount Dora. Lake County School Board has a legal and moral responsibility and duty to provide a safe and healthy environment for the children of Lake County. You do not have a duty or responsibility to feed the ambitions of DeSantis to be president. You need to stop listening to the fringe QAnon and reinstate a mask mandate.
Thank you. I can't find this. You said Gregory? Okay.
I'll keep it brief. My name's Christian Sanchez. I'm a father and I run darkdocs.com information warfare here in Florida. I've been going to all of these school board meetings about masking since March, made several films about it, And I'd say the majority of parents are all on the same page that, yes, it is a violation of the parents' constitution as well as ADA law in many cases to impose any sort of mask mandate. So there's really nothing to vote on. That's it. There should be no mask mandate, and you would be violating it if you did, and you will be violating it if you do. A couple key points that you can read more about at darkdocs.com. Anthony Fauci wrote a very long-winded thesis paper several years ago about the Spanish flu. The majority of people didn't die from the Spanish flu. They died from bacterial pneumonia from wearing these masks, plain and simple. Up until about last year, he said that if it makes you feel better, you can wear masks, but really, it doesn't really help anything. And the science is now proving that. CDC is on board with that. The left says follow the science, but they only want to follow the science when it suits them. So that's pretty much it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Row 2, second seat. Did you fill out a card? I'll get them.
My name is Christina Romano. I am a sophomore at Mount Dora High School. As a student, you guaranteed us that we would be in a safe environment, which is not the case at all. I've had multiple interactions with students who said, COVID isn't real. No one has died. The vaccine is fake. I've had multiple people in my family who've died from COVID. I shouldn't be judged in a class for wearing a mask. Last year, we've had less cases and less quarantines when students were wearing masks. This year, we've had over 200 students quarantined the first week of school. Every class, every hallway I walked into, no masks and no protections. Are you guys really protecting us? I have a right to be safe in a classroom. I have 7 classes. None of the desks have dividers nor 6 feet from each other. I've gotten judged for being vaccinated. I feel excluded from my classroom because of wearing a mask. I've gone home every night thinking, did I bring COVID home to my family? Lake County should be a leader, not a follower. I am not the person to judge, but some of your kids that you have at home don't wear masks. You probably told them to make sure they've had their masks, but as soon as they walk into school, their masks are off. Most students follow their friends. They do what their friends do. I have 7 classes with different students every day. All I hear in classrooms are phones going off for students to get quarantined. What is it going to take you to change? Will it be when a student or a teacher of Lake County dies from COVID-19? Don't you want me and all of Lake County to be safe? Keep my mom safe and my siblings safe. I have a voice and I'm allowed to use it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, second row, third seat. Thank you.
Hi, school board members. Thank you for allowing us to speak this evening. My name is June Presley, and I have a question, but just to tell you where I'm from, so the Villages, but I went to school right here in Lake County, K through 12, and I'm also still a certified teacher, and I'm still employed by the Lake County School District. I am just not a full-time teacher anymore. And I taught in many schools here in the district, and I love being in the district. So why am I here this evening? Being in the classroom with students because I am vaccinated, and thank you very much for allowing us, even the substitutes, to come and get vaccinated with the teachers. It's very difficult for me to speak with my students, especially with my students that are in the ESOL grouping when they're looking at us, because I'm English, to have proper pronunciation. I understand that it's a back and forth, so my stance is choice, parental choice. But for me, as a teacher in the classroom, I'm choosing not to wear a mask. It's not because I think I'm right, it's just that because of the vaccine and because of the fact that I believe that it's my choice. So my question is, with the numbers that we have just recently that were reported in the first 2 weeks of school, for those that unfortunately were in contact tracing or were grouped in with either contracting COVID or unfortunately with staff and students that actually tested positive. Just wanted to ask, and you don't have to tell me the number, I'm just putting it out there. Is there any way to find out how many went to the hospital, how many were hospitalized? That is a concern, of course, because the newspaper will tell us that there's 600 and some, and it gets everybody all worried. Back in August 16th, they ran a really lengthy article, And so, of course, that's what created a lot of this. So that's just my concern is I'm looking at percentages. I'm just looking at numbers because, again, I'm a realist. And if it's a real spike and, then we all should, maybe make some hard decisions. But for me, if it is not a super spike and people were not hospitalized and maybe they're just contracting it, but they're not passing it, then that is something that we as a school district should look at. And again, thank you so much for having us here, and I appreciate y'all. Thank you
Thank
so
you
much.
very
You do
much.
a hard job. Thank you.
Right. And we'll pull you aside and we'll try and get back to you. Yes, sir.
My name is Sam. I'm a concerned parent from Claremont. I was out on the highway holding an American flag and this sign, "Let parents decide." Doesn't really seem like a radical idea, but the fact that we're all here is shameful that we have to be here holding these signs. This is the United States of America. We're parents. And our power is being taken away to make choices for our own children. Choices that healthcare choices that we are following the facts and making decisions for our children. And you're trying to take that away from us in the United States of America. That's called tyranny. That's not American. It's shameful that I'm here today. And it's shameful that these people are here today to have to stand up to this. Parents love their children the most. Parents would never put their children in harm's way. Parents will always make the right choices for the health and well-being of their children. We are concerned parents. HB 241, the Parents' Bill of Rights, gives we the parents this choice. This is state law, but yet we're still here debating. This is state law passed by the governor on July 4th or July 1st. I wish he passed it on July 4th. Follow the science. We hear that. Masks are not really effective in keeping out virus, which is small enough to pass through material. Do you know who said that? Dr. Fauci in his leaked email. We weren't supposed to see those emails, were we? But we did see them. Let me read it again. Masks are not really effective in keeping out virus, which is small enough to pass through material. Dr. Fauci email. Has everyone seen that? We also have data from last year in Florida. Our great governor has cited this data, and I hope that you all have seen this data. We had schools last year with mask mandates and without mask mandates. Christy, did you see that study?
Please.
No difference in the number of China virus cases between schools with mask mandates and without. I beg you to look at that data the governor has. So I ask you to follow the science, and I ask you to follow Florida state law. Is that too much to ask a concerned parent on you members? And I ask you to reject these Marxist political activists. This mask mandate is political. It's not following the science.
Wrap it up, please.
Say yes to parents' choice. Say yes to freedom. And say yes to the United States of America. God
Thank you.
bless.
Thank you. Okay, second row, ma'am. Did y'all sign a card? Yeah.
Hello, my name is Tara, and I'm from Lake County. I have two kids that go to Lake County schools. I have a high schooler and I have a elementary schooler.
Sorry, is it Tara Morris?
Yes, it is. And I just can't believe we're here talking about masks. I'm going to tell you, I'm going to follow the governor's orders, and his orders are law. He's the one that said that parents make the decision. I'm following that. If y'all decide to do a mask mandate, I can tell you tomorrow or the next day and the next day after that, my kids are going to go to school without a mask because I'm following the law. I will not get a phone call from school saying, come pick up my children. I work. I'm not going to take a phone call because I know what it is, that they're not wearing a mask. I'm not going to pick up that phone call. I'm a taxpayer. So, I'm just going to say that your job is to teach, pick curriculum, and leave the decision-making to the parents. Thank you.
Thank you. So, no. We're on the second row. So, yes, sir. Come on.
Okay. My name is Frank Hunt. Thank you for the opportunity to talk for a minute. I would like to say that there should be no opt-out policy in this district. We have a constitution, and your oath, as was pointed out, your oath is to follow the Constitution of the United States and the state of Florida. There is no authorization in either constitution for any mask mandate. So we should not have to go and ask for our child not to wear a mask. We automatically should not wear a mask. If somebody wants to come with a mask, they can do that, but there should be no opt-out policy. It should not be necessary. We should come in without mask on. I want to address a couple of things about the doctor that spoke. He mentioned the studies from Duke University. Well, it happens to be that the coronavirus originated in the laboratories of Duke University. That's where it originally originated, through NIH and through the Army base that works on biological weapons. And then it got itself into Wuhan. So if you listen to anything from Duke University, you better not, because they're the ones that started the whole mess. Doctors today have been studying the medicine that has been taught by Big Pharma for the last 40 years. All of their training has been drugs, medicines, and stuff like that, because Big Pharma has funded that for the last 40 or 50 years. That's why doctors, when you go to the thing, they want to give you drugs. You try a holistic thing, and FDA comes against it. I have a son-in-law who is a doctor. I watched, and while he medicined up my grandchildren and made them sicker, and this was before COVID, and he would not listen to me at all about it, and they've gotten sicker. And that's why hospitals are having problems with the flu, why they're being overwhelmed. One is they cut back staff at the initial thing, and two is that all of their treatments are based on pharma's things, which were totally opposite of what it should have been. Most of the deaths that happened initially were from people put on respirators, which turned out to be the exact opposite of what you should do. The respirators killed people. They also killed people when they put older people with COVID into nursing homes of healthy older citizens. So that's where the majority of the deaths came from. This $600,000 deaths, 600,000 deaths that would supposedly happen, more than half of that should have not happened if medicine had followed not Big Pharma, but if they just gave them hydroxychloroquine, which is $5, and they would have saved most of those people. So,
Mr. Hunt, if you can wrap it up.
yeah, I would like to just say one thing. Dr. Fauci, towards the end, in 2018, Bill Gates had a seminar about pandemics, how to do pandemics. And in 2019, towards the end, Dr. Fauci gave a speech. At the end of his speech, he said that in a few months, we're going to have a pandemic. This is before anything had happened. So that's why most of us call it a plandemic, not a pandemic. And Benjamin Franklin said that if you want security and freedom, you'll end up with neither. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to the third row. Start on this side. Did you fill out a card?
Yes.
Okay. If you'll give us your name.
My name is Emma.
Is that how you filled the card out? Just Emma?
Yeah, Emma Link, probably. Okay.
Go ahead.
I believe mask mandates should not be required in schools. Why, you may ask? Let me start off by saying you're taking away all of the fun from school when we have to worry about all of these guidelines that have been set up for our so-called protection. These guidelines take away everything from the high school experience we should be getting and enjoying. I'm in an executive internship class, which is also known as yearbook, and for over a year we have been struggling to even find topics to write about. A yearbook is for past students to reflect on their high school lives and experiences. With parents worried about COVID-19, we are losing clubs, proms and homecomings, and social interaction, therefore taking away from the whole high school experience. Would you want to look back in your yearbook and remember one of the worst times of your life when you were constantly pushed to wear masks, had to rush to class because the one-ways hallways always made you late, or even look back on a serious depression phase you went through because you felt all alone through school and the pandemic? No, I don't think you would, and I know that I don't. High school is supposed to be the time of our lives. How can we have that time when we have to be 6 feet away from our best friends, or we can't even see a smile on someone's face because they're wearing a mask? I understand that a pandemic is going on, but according to the CDC website, quote, hospitalization rates in children are significantly lower than hospitalization rates in adults with COVID-19, suggesting that children may have less severe illness from COVID-19 compared to adults, end quote. Continuing on, according to a statistical chart on the Florida Department of Health page, for all children under 16, only 11 died out of the 342,378 cases reported in the entire state of Florida. While every death is tragic, we must take into consideration any underlying health issues, and if they were not killed by COVID, they could have died from anything else, sadly. Moving on from the statistics of the virus, let's talk about the effect COVID and the new COVID guidelines have on teen mental health. According to Scripps.org, studies show that, quote, 3 in 4 parents said that COVID restrictions had affected their teens' connection to friends and family, end quote. As a teen in this pandemic, I am proof, okay, I had suffered from depression from this pandemic. It's really hard. For over a year and a half, COVID restrictions have limited the type of social interactions and peer group activities that are so important in the lives of teenagers and for their development as they try to discover who they are. I don't like politics, and the topic of COVID has become very controversial and political. I just want to remind you all that we need to focus on the physical and mental health effects that COVID has on students. No one cares about your political views. This speech is made about medical freedom and to educate you all on what I have seen from my own point of view at school and the factual statements that I have found online. At my school, the majority of the students' body do not wear masks, and most of those that do don't even wear them properly. Even last year, masks still weren't worn properly, so I ask, what is the point of even wearing them at all? It is finally time for a change to be made. We need to be moving forward and not backwards. Last year, those of us that wouldn't have chosen to wear masks were forced to wear a mask and suffer. This year, it's our year to choose whether we want to wear a mask or not. After all, it is my body and my choice.
That's right.
Ma'am,
So I initially didn't want to speak because I'm too nervous, but my daughter right there made me get up here. So based on what I've witnessed, when I've gone to school board, look at school board photos, pictures that are online on the website, and attending Meet the Teacher events, what I see is at least 50-50, wearing masks, not wearing masks. Maybe even 60% of the people not wearing masks. So based off of that, what we want is mask choice. We have catered to the maskers last year. Mentally, our children have suffered, my child has suffered. Thankfully, we have a governor that believes in making medical decisions, leaving them to the parents. And this year, my child will not be forced to wear a mask. I hear your arguments such as, oh, my kid wears them okay. You'll get used to it. Well, newsflash, it is not okay for my child to wear a mask. My children have every right to grow up normal and have human interaction. The likelihood of our children dying from COVID is so small, it's practically immeasurable, even with the Delta variant. While it's true that some kids may be getting COVID, they're not dying, y'all. I'm proof of that. I had COVID. I survived. You most likely will too. Children are not super spreaders. If you are an adult that fears for their own safety and you think children need to wear a mask to keep you safe, then you stay home and you keep your fears off of my child. If you want to wear a mask, you are free to do so. We're simply demanding medical freedom when we choose not to wear one. That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Third row, this side first.
Okay. I won't lie, this is not really my jam. I want to thank the board members for doing what is right and following the law by supporting Governor DeSantis' emergency order, okay? I'm a mom of 3 children, with one in college, one in 8th grade, and my baby started kindergarten this year. I won't lie, I'd much rather be home with my kids tonight. However, there is a political push that has basically taken that time away from us this evening. I'm pretty sure you guys are sick of hearing about masks at this point, aren't we all?
100%.
But the problem is when one group of people is trying to take away the rights of others, we have to stand and make our voices heard. So I appreciate everyone who chose choice for parents. I was a school-based nurse in this county for 7 years prior to having my youngest child, who happened to be a preemie. Mrs. Cunningham actually taught me how to implement health policies with respect to parental rights. I was a newer nurse in the county, and I would come to her sometimes and go, I don't know, what am I supposed to do about that? No, you can't do that, Nurse Jen. You can give the parent the option for that. You can do this. You as a board cannot determine to give ADHD medication to children without a parent's consent. Neither can the school nurse. You can't give an EpiPen, inhaler, glucagon, even if the doctor's written an order, unless the parent has signed consent. So I think that's just something in the future we want to make sure that that is remembered, because there are those who want to take away our freedoms and our rights to choose for our children. Masks are a medical device, and anyone who says otherwise, look it up. Look up the definition. It's a medical device. As a school nurse, I couldn't put an ACE wrap on a student. I wasn't allowed to do that. I could put a Band-Aid on because that's what the Department of Health said I could do, but I wasn't allowed. So how can a board in other counties we're seeing choose to force children to wear masks? We can't go backwards. We can't lose this ground. The my body, my choice, that's a mantra for me I never thought I would use, but it's good for the goose, it's good for the gander. So that's where I'm gonna stand. I ask that you continue to follow the law and support parents' rights. That's all I have, thank you.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you. Your name, please.
Thank you for honoring our parental right to choose whether to mask or vaccinate our children. I hope that you continue to protect our individual freedoms as well as our children's well-being. When it comes to allowing each family whether to choose to mask, I believe the data is firmly on our side, as you can see from the handout. We've now had 1.5 years of data which strongly argues against masking children. All of these points are supported with the data and research in the articles that I've shared with you. First, children have an extremely low risk of death, hospitalization, or adverse events due to COVID. In fact, they face a 3 to 4 times higher mortality rate from the flu than from COVID, and 10 times the risk of suicide. Second, even with the Delta variant, children are at extremely low risk, with some data showing that pediatric hospitalization rates for the Delta are less than half what they've been for earlier variants. Third, children are not super spreaders, and multiple contact tracing studies have proven this. Fourth, mask mandates, especially in schools, do not reduce school or community transmission. Just 2 days ago, an article was published in the West Orange Times showing that right next door in Orange County, the mask mandates do not seem to show a direct correlation between confirmed COVID cases in their schools. I also want to address the psychological impact that this is having on our children. It's very close to my heart because we lost my children's father last year to suicide. I know that I'm not alone. Other people have already spoken to this and saying that our children have been working through grief, depression, anxiety, and fatigue from this pandemic. The CDC states that girls between the ages of 12 to 17 were admitted to the emergency room because of attempted suicide. That's raised 51% since 2019. I beg of you, please consider the emotional well-being of our children. When they're told that they must mask up because they're a danger to their teachers, danger to their parents, to their grandparents, that has a very deep impact on their psyche. And it's simply not true, as I've already shown in the previous points. Masks also don't allow for social cues to be read between peers or students and teachers. I personally feel that masks perpetuate the feeling of isolation, which is another driver for depression and anxiety. Thank you for listening. Thank you for caring for our children, for their well-being, and for providing an excellent education.
Thank you. We've now reached the 1 hour mark, so we have 30 minutes. So if there's a point that's already been made, you can make your comments shorter than the 3 minutes, and we can speed through. We're third row, and to you, ma'am. Oops. Huh? Yes, that's what I'm trying to call it. Is that third row or fourth row? 1, 2, third row, 1, 2, third seat. Right there. Oh, no, do you have a comment, ma'am? Yes, ma'am. Oh, what? Well, wait. Yeah, so I've got a system. Okay, now we're going to the fourth row, and ma'am, you. If I could get your name, please.
Yes, good evening. My name is Tammy Morales, and I live in Lake County.
This is not counting against you.
Yeah, I didn't start it.
We having technical difficulties?
A little bit.
And we were doing so good. We had like a rhythm.
Sorry. It's important, I promise. I wouldn't have done that. Thank you. I'm ready.
Okay, go for it.
Again, my name is Tammy Morales. I have 2 little girls that go to Pine Ridge Elementary, and I'm here as a parent. This thing, I do not love this thing, and I don't think there is one person in this room, regardless of what side of the aisle you are on, that loves this thing. But who I do love is my 2 little girls, 6 and 8 years old, in 1st grade and 3rd grade, who go to Pine Ridge Elementary. One of them who had to come home this last Tuesday because another child in her classroom tested positive. It was very disruptive. But that's not even the important part here. The important part here is the fact that I'm really grateful that she did not exhibit any symptoms, and she is able to go back to school on Monday. Now, I say that just to talk about the disruptive aspect of COVID that we all know our children go through. But my concern is their safety, and I do believe that this little thing that I hate so much will help protect them. You know, someone here talked about God gave us a free will. And yes, he did. I believe in God, and I believe that, yes, he did give us a free will. But he also told his people in the book of Leviticus, he told his people not to eat pork. Now, it is a scientific fact that pork can carry trichinosis. And if you do not cook your pork up to 160 degrees Fahrenheit, you risk getting trichinosis. I've actually known people in South America who've gotten this disease, and it is not pretty. All of that to say that God didn't want to risk one person of his people to getting trichinosis by eating pork, and so guess what? He mandated no pork. Now, I'm not saying you're God, but you are given the care of our children in these schools. And I just ask you, if you believe in God, ask for Him to guide you, give you wisdom in this decision, because I know it's not easy. I don't know how, being in your seats are, but I just ask for you to really consider both sides of the argument and consider the safety of our children first.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And then we're on that row all the way across. We go to, ma'am? Yes, ma'am. And your name, please?
Kathy Chesley. And I live here in Lake County, and I have a grandson in Tavares Elementary, second grade. And also, I'm a former registered nurse. Now, despite what has been said about these masks and not protecting us or anything, they are our first line of defense. They are in the hospital when the nurses wear them in an operating room. When we have somebody on isolation, not only do we put these on, but we gown totally up. They protect us, they protect the patient. And with these masks on, the children are being protected. If a person went to the doctors with their child, and the doctor said, that child needs to wear a mask, when in large places, but possibly at home, not so much, but when they go out or are in a classroom or something, because of a medical condition they had, or it could which could possibly make them very sick or cause their death, and the parent refused to do it, that's negligence. That's endangering the child. I've seen it happen. I saw a mother have her child taken away because she wouldn't give the antibiotic the doctor ordered. Yes, we have a right where our children are concerned, but until they're 18, there's certain things that we have to follow when it comes to their health and well-being. And if we don't, we lose our children. That's the way the laws are written, and that's how society is. So why isn't it the same in the schools? We have the whole Southern County have put all mandates on for masks. We now have Leon County doing the same thing because of children getting sick. And yes, children could possibly die from this. They're telling us this Delta is more effective than the original Kona. It spreads easier, and it is affecting the younger people. So this isn't about politics. This isn't about rights. When our former framers of this country, founding fathers, set up all our freedoms and rights, I highly doubt he expected us to put those rights and freedoms over the above of the health and the life of children. So you can listen to the ones who are so concerned about a right, and we're going to lose this right, we're going to lose that right if we lose this right over our children. It's nonsense. All we want to do is protect our children. My grandson has a little bit of a respiratory problem. He gets a cold, it's not a simple cold.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay.
Now I'm on the back row. Across the back row, nothing? Nothing? Right there? Okay. Your name, please?
I'm Rachel.
And you'll have 3 minutes.
Great. Hello, I've never been to one of these before. I'm very nervous, but I do want to thank you all for what you're doing. I appreciate my school board. I appreciate my schools. I know that we are working together to raise our kids, and it is a really tough thing to do, to make these moral decisions when there's so many different factors to consider and so many very important moral obligations. And I want to tell you something. I appreciate everyone that's here, even those that are not on my side. Thank you for doing your civic duty and following your conscience and speaking up. And those of you that are able to do it with civility, I just give you wonderful thanks for that, because it's hard. It's not easy when you're passionate about something and there's so much fear hanging over your head about life and rights. It's a really big deal. So I really, really thank you all for coming here. And I do want to say that I am on the side of keeping the choice of the parents as the choice of the parents, just mostly for the fact that it's our God-given responsibility. And I think that when it comes to the spheres of responsibility that we have as individuals, there are domains that are integral to our human nature that we absolutely cannot cross. And as I said to my mother today, there is something that I know for sure, and that is that I'm responsible for my children all the days of their life. And I feel that it is incumbent upon me to walk in that ministry with as much integrity as I have. And when I fail, it is the right and the responsibility of those around me to point it out and to make sure that I'm doing right. And I do appreciate that. I only ask that those of us that have come here under the moral obligation to say we want to do what's right, and every single one of us is doing that, to weigh that in the spheres and domains that have been given to us. And as I recall, there's some document that we have that says that we are endowed by our Creator with inalienable rights. So I just ask you to refer to that in your decision. And I really do thank everyone that's come here for coming. It is a blessing to see it. We are mostly civil. It's been a little annoying. It's been a little long. But honestly, this is a triumph to the American institution. And I want to thank every one of you for what you've done and for the considerations that you're making.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we're moving back to the first row. Did you fill out a card? Yes, ma'am.
Yes, I did.
Okay. If I can get your name, and then you'll have 3 minutes.
Cindy Shackley. Hi. Thank you for having this tonight so that all the parents and interested people can speak. I didn't come expecting to speak tonight, but I did want my voice to be heard. I believe that this is a choice for the parents to make for their child. I think our children, when they are hidden behind a mask, they can't smile and talk properly. I don't know how many times I've gone into a store and been waited on by somebody who has a mask on, and I can't hear them. I honestly can't hear what they're saying, and I have to ask them. I said, I can't hear you, what you're saying. And they will say it a little louder. And I said, I still can't understand what you're saying. So it becomes a problem for the children who are in school, trying to not only hear their classmates, but to hear their teacher properly. And when you think about the children who are beginning to learn to read, some of the kindergarten kids who come in, some of them have speech problems, and if they're dealing with that, and plus just pronouncing words correctly, if they can't hear their teacher, the teacher can't be close to each child at each desk for them to be close enough, the children are missing out on their learning by having their teacher and other children having masks on. So I am opposed to mask mandate for our children, and I would like to see the parents have the choice if they wish for their children to have a mask on. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Yes, sir.
Yes, I'm Clint Adams from Mount Dora, and I did fill out a card.
Okay.
I am not for the mask. I am changing a little bit of what I was gonna say, because I originally wrote it down, tried to prepare it the way you guys normally do it, and this is not as normal as we go. I'm gonna give a little bit of my personal history on this. Is I am a post-transplant, lowered immune system person. I do not believe masks work for viruses. I had to wear masks for bacterial issues, not for blocking viruses and things of that nature. I can speak to my own issue and why I wore them for a time, and I had to, because when you walk around and you go into certain places, there are bacterial issues, and that's why I don't touch this podium too much. Probably gonna have to disinfect a few things afterwards. All that said, I don't believe the mask works in that capacity. Somebody mentioned wearing masks properly. So many kids are fiddling and playing with the mask and they're taking it off, and another teacher just outside as we were walking in was talking about how the kids are chewing on masks. And there's a wet stain in the front of the mask from how many times they chewed it and they wore it the next day. We have no mask etiquette that's going along in this. So for or against mask, it's creating problems whether, if it's not done the proper way. PPE is supposed to be thrown away at the end of a surgery. At the end of a thing, it's all thrown in a bin and tossed and destroyed. Cloth masks that are washed, yeah, if they're washed every day and you replace it, maybe it does something, not to the data I've seen. That's my personal thing. I don't wear masks, I don't believe they work. On the other side of things, I do want to read this last part. I do appreciate, Dr. Barnes, what you have done. I did read about that on the website, how you reinstated recess for a lot of things. I am very happy that you've done that, because I want my kids to have that. It does teach critical skills that are not taught in the classroom. Skills that cannot be learned by covering up the face. My daughter stutters. She has a very bad problem with this. She's learning in kindergarten how to talk, language skills. She cannot learn any of these things with the bottom half of the face covered. You lose most of the stuff you were talking about that they gain at recess. You lose your entire reason for being on this board. That is all I have to say for today.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Did you fill out a card?
Yes, I did. My name is Linda Kiro.
Please.
Hello, I'm Linda Kiro.
I totally did not recognize you.
I live in Leesburg. And I didn't have an intention to speak today, but I've been insulted. I've heard terrible things are going on outside. I'm sure you are all very well aware of it. But what I did want to say today, Christy, thank you for wearing your mask. I really appreciate it. And I wish everyone here would wear a mask. I know that we are supposed to be leaders, not followers. The CDC recommends that we wear a mask in public buildings. Why we are not doing that here is beyond me. I know we're all super people, but we can get sick. Not only that, if you don't get sick, I can get sick. Or if I don't get sick, my grandkids can get sick. So it's kind of important that we follow the CDC recommendations, not make up new recommendations as we go along. I'd like to say that when we all start school, we're all responsible to the school district to get our immunizations. There are 5, 6, 7, I don't know how many there are now. There's quite a few immunizations. Are parents going to be allowed to opt out of that as well? I think not. They're not going to opt out of their whatever the dress requirements are, whatever the requirements are that you legally can impose, you will, and people here will follow those instructions. So you are all leaders in this community. And you're letting this craziness go on now for over a year. This is absolutely ridiculous what's going on here. The CDC requires that we wear a mask indoors in public buildings. They ask us to do that. It is our job to lead and not follow. If we could please follow the mandates that the CDC provided us with, we wouldn't have to have these fights. We wouldn't have to have these ridiculous adult behaviors that are going on. We could all just follow one set of rules and go forward. I hope, if there's a solution, I hope that you will all play King Solomon. Make one school mask mandated. Make one school not mask mandated. Watch the numbers. You'll know. You can easily do that. Let some of them not have their mask. It's their right, okay? Let them smoke and let them do whatever they want to do inside the building. But the people that, if I want to go to school and help children learn how to read, I want to be safe. It's our responsibility to make public schools safe for teachers and for children.
Thank you, Mrs. Kira. Next. Did you want to speak? Did you fill out a card? I'm going across the road here. No, it's your turn if you want to speak.
My name is Sue Hooper, and I hope this will be the shortest presentation of the evening. I did a little folder or a flyer here, and I was thinking, I went to school in Orlando. I went to a Catholic school in downtown Orlando, well, maybe not downtown, but I can remember in elementary school, we learned that air is the air you breathe, or the air outside. You enjoy the air outside where the trees make the oxygen, and they take the carbon dioxide and make it into oxygen for us to breathe. So when you are breathing, when you have a mask on, you are letting, we take in oxygen, we let out carbon dioxide. So when you're wearing a mask, you are breathing out carbon dioxide into the mask, and then your kids are breathing it back into their bodies, and this is not good at all. This is very, very dangerous for our children. So I would say, read the science. It's not good to breathe in carbon dioxide. It's very bad.
Thank you, Mrs. Super. Thank you. Mr. Walker.
Chris Walker, Groveland. Let me first start out by saying I'm not here for or against, but I am here to talk about freedom. I've been here since a couple of hours, and I've seen a lot of ugliness outside, which is not cause for. And I will say that you guys have a tough job as leaders to go and do some more research and make a sound decision on behalf of the people. But as a U.S. veteran, as a commander, vice commander of the American Legion, as a pastor, as one who served this country and fought for freedom, I believe that if we're not careful, a lot of our freedoms will be taken away every time we decide that the government should tell us what we should do. And I think people need to think about that. And I'm not saying here that masks are not good, but what I will say is this. My father died of COVID-19 this year, just 6 months ago. He wore a mask religiously, but he still died. And he died not because he didn't have a mask or had a mask, he died because he had a bad immune system. Maybe we should teach and pass a resolution that we should talk about teaching health and immune system stuff in the schools versus fighting about something that none of us are doctors and none of us know exactly what's going on. I hear a lot about the CDC. Well, the CDC doesn't even know what they're talking about half of the time. They've changed it. They've changed it. They've changed it over and over again. First, it was about the older people. Then it was the college students. Now it's the kids. Then it was no mask. Now it's mask, double mask. I fly every month, twice a month, on a commercial airline with 150 to 300 people. They tell you to wear your mask on the airline, but then they tell all of us to take it off when we're eating our peanuts and drinking our Sprites. Does that make sense to you? If the airlines cared, they'd probably put somebody in between you and the other person, but they don't care. They care about money. I also go to a restaurant. I love eating. I'm a foodie. They tell you to walk in with a mask, but then we get to take it off after we sit around a bunch of people. I just think this is causing so much division between Republicans and Democrats, and that it just doesn't make sense. And we should start looking at more studies instead of listening to the government who's let us down for a long time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Robinson.
Esteemed Lake County School Board members, how are you?
Good.
I'm glad to see that you're taking some precautions, that you have the choice to do that you exercise that choice. I believe in choice. We believe that parents should have the choice. We believe that the school board does a great job, but it should be left to the parents when it comes to dealing with the health and safety of our children. I represent all Lake County students' parents' choice. I represent the Lake County Patriots for Liberty. I am John Galt. This is about a parent's choice to control their children's health. I haven't worn a mask since the 3rd month of the COVID pandemic being announced from the White House. I have contracted COVID-19 twice. It wasn't pleasant. I've been there. Curled me up in a ball for 6 days. I haven't worn a mask. I also operate a business at the sharp end of the stick. I treat COVID-compromised environments. I believe, and I wear a mask when I do that, because I'm right in there, in the thick of it. I believe our medical profession, who I've heard many opinions, and I believe that the people that work at the sharp end of the stick, they work in the medical profession, they work and they deal with this every day. I believe they should have the right to choose. But you see, what comes next? We mandate masks. What comes next after that is we mandate vaccines. I'm not an anti-vaxxer. Measles, mumps, rubella, polio. We've had these vaccines for hundreds of years. But we've had a vaccine for COVID-19 for 6 months. We do not know the long-term effects, but that's where this progressivism goes. Bear with me, I'm sorry, my phone turned off. Okay. There is no excuse when we know the right thing and the wrong thing, what the right thing and the wrong thing is, and doing the wrong thing is always wrong when it comes to harming our children because of forced mask mandates. If masks worked, as some people wearing them here say so, then let them choose to do so. But if a child's parents decide it's damaging for their, a child to wear a face diaper to be breathing back in the body's waste that it's getting out, then it's the parent's choice. And the school board work for the parents of Lake County. Masks are about compliance. They're arbitrary dictates. And there's mixed evidence for the fors and against and the spread of COVID wearing masks. Show us the studies, the empirical science to the contrary. There's so much information out there, nobody knows anymore. The CDC flip-flop every week. I have a teenager in the Lake County School Board system that I took out because of how she was feeling wearing masks. It was making her nauseous, and it was giving her headaches. When I stopped doing that, it stopped.
Thank you, Mr. Hall.
Thank you.
Okay. We're at 1 minute 52 seconds. We have someone in the back row. Okay, this is.
She's gonna concede to me if that's okay.
That's fine.
Boys, come on.
So, this will be our last speaker. You have 3 minutes, and your name, please.
Kristen Graffio. Boys, come on this side. I want to start by saying that I'm absolutely ashamed in my county today. The way that my children were treated while waiting to come in here was absolutely abhorrent. If anybody would like the video of my children being accosted by grown men, you can feel free to request that for me after this meeting. I am here today to urge the school board to put in place a mask mandate effective as immediately as possible to last no less than 30 days, requiring all occupants to wear masks while indoors and when outdoors where social distancing is not possible in order to actively mitigate the spread of COVID-19 in our schools. I know that I need not remind you that public schools are a place where our children are meant to feel safe. Be safe. They are not a place where everyone is always going to like or agree with every rule. And they are also not a place where we get to just do whatever we want, right? Right. There are rules not simply dictated by whoever can yell freedom the loudest, but which should be in place to both protect the children and to preserve the academic experience for all of them. I hear a lot of parents talking about the right to choose, and that's all well and good until it impedes on my rights. My right to send my children to a school that takes their health and well-being seriously. My right to work and make a living to support them without it being knowingly impeded. As a single parent, my only choice here is to send my kid to school and cross my fingers because I can prepare them to do everything possible to protect themselves, but when their class gets quarantined, well, we can mitigate the risk. You have a moral obligation. The children do not live in a bubble. They live in our community. They come into contact with others who may not survive this, who are not surviving this. The Center for Disease Control thinks we should mask. The American Association of Pediatrics agrees. These are the voices we need to be listening to, not attention-hungry politician Ron DeSantis. His constituents can yell about their rights all day, but the truth is that this is actually not one of their rights. At the end of the day, this is about unnecessary deaths. If this were one of their rights, we would not have any dress code. There are others who wanted to be here today, but they couldn't because their children have contracted COVID at school, and they didn't want to expose you. I don't care if the funding has to come from the federal government. I don't care if some people here end up getting removed. Are you protecting my kids or not? There is no choice here. We do something, we mitigate the spread, or we don't. I strongly urge you to do something. Thank you for your time.
Okay, that's going to conclude public comments. What I'd like to do is ask for those of you that didn't get to speak, if you wanted to come up for just 1 second and just give your name, and you can say whether you're in support or not support, if you want to. We'll allow that for about 30 seconds as I figure out how to turn this timer off.
My name's Samara Russell. I'm an elementary school teacher here in Lake County Public Schools. You need to do something. You need to mask us up.
Thank you.
My name is Kelly Reed. I am here tonight on behalf of almost 400 families of Lake County schools, and we demand that you do something to help our children.
Thank you.
Natalie Bajar from Mineola. I'm actually a homeschool mom, but I'm here on behalf of a lot of my friends who are working parents and who are in favor of having their own choice to decide.
Thank you.
Cassie Kolarski from Groveland, Florida. I'm here to remind you, you made a promise to me, Ms. Cornegie, that you would leave it up to the parents. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Wade Lopes. I reside here in Tavares, Florida. I represent the Lake County Democratic Party, and although I'm not here on that matter, I am in support of the mask mandate because the numbers here are catastrophic.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time.
Hi, June Lang, Eustis. So much talk about kids being safe from COVID. I'd like you to ponder keeping kids safe from the fear of COVID.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Angie Connor from Eustis, Florida. I wanted to say that I am against mask mandate. If you do choose a mask mandate, as the attorney spoke earlier, it is now illegal to mandate the masks.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
also against statutory, and
No more comments.
you would
Thank
be
you.
violating the law.
Thanks for your patience. I just want to quickly say one thing. It's not the parents' responsibility to keep the kids safe at school.
Thank you, Dr. Tibbetts.
Vance Yoakum, I've published a lot of research on fiscalrangers.com about why masks are dangerous. And so clearly I believe that it should be optional.
Thank you. Okay, that concludes public input. And we'll move into reports.
Mr. Mathias, did you want me to read
I'm
these?
sorry.
out
I'm
of the
sorry.
consent record?
We had some that, that filled out cards, did not want to speak, but I wanted Vice Chair Luke to read into the record their names. So really quickly.
Okay, and I apologize in advance for any misspeak on how to pronounce
That's why I gave it
things.
to you.
These were all, well, yeah, I know. These were all in support of a mask mandate, just to be clear on that. There was Kathy Weaver, Janet Michonne, Eileen Rand, Arthur Hazelton, Dean, Cassandra Brown, Constant Albright, Amy Ellison, Patricia Jackson, Kay Dreisbach, Angelica Gomez, Stephen Latish, Kristen Graffeo, Gregory Wilhelm, Marcia Russell, Stuart Clapp, Wade Lopez, Frank Wood, Lindsay Russell, Sandra Haxton, Rose Fitzpatrick, Dennis Ham, and Kim Norberg.
Thank you, Ms. Lee. Okay, now we'll move into reports. No report? Okay, Superintendent?
Recommend approval of consent agenda items 8.01 to 10.07.
Board members, you heard the superintendent's recommendation. Do I
So
have a
moved.
motion? A second? Second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? 5-0.
We're now on discussion item 11.01, tentative approval of the updates to policies. These were sent to,
Can I ask a favor? Could we do like a 3-minute break?
sure.
Yeah, okay. So we're going to take a real quick 3-minute break.
Or you want to pass them on again?
Starting now.
Huh?
Starting right now.
Right now. She's not coming.
Oh, she,
Got mine. Okay, so, all right, we're all ready. Superintendent?
As I mentioned, 11.01, tentative approval of updates to policies. I'll turn that over to Mr. Johnson.
Yes, the item before the board this evening is the initial approval of several policies. They are as follows. 1122, non-discrimination, equal employment opportunity. 1122.01, prohibition against disability discrimination in employment. 1362, anti-harassment. 2410, school health services. 2431, interscholastic athletics. 2431.05, athletic injuries prevention and treatment program. 3122, non-discrimination and equal employment opportunity. 3122.01, prohibition against disability discrimination in employment. 3362, anti-harassment. 4122, non-discrimination and equal employment opportunity. 4122.01, prohibition against disability discrimination in employment. 4362, anti-harassment. 5112, entrance requirements. 5611, due process rights. 5780, student parent rights. 6107, authorization to accept and distribute electronic records to use electronic signature and make electronic fund transfers. 6114, cost principles. 6325, procurement, federal grants, funds. 6330, acquisition of professional architectural, engineering, landscape architectural, or land surveying services. 7450, property inventory, and 7455, accounting system for capital assets. If there's anyone here this evening that wishes to speak to any of these policies, then please come forward to the microphone at this time. Mr. Chairman, I don't see anyone coming forward and believe it appropriate to close the public hearing portion.
Superintendent, you have a recommendation?
Recommend tentative approval of the policies as noted in board docs.
You've heard the superintendent's recommendation. To have a motion?
so moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? 4-0. Okay.
Next item, 11.02, Mr. Johnson.
Yes, the item before the board is final approval of policy 2215, program of instruction. If there's anyone here this evening that wishes to speak to the amendments to this policy, then please come forward to the podium at this time. Mr. Chairman, I don't see one coming forward and believe it appropriate to close the public hearing.
Superintendent, you have a recommendation?
I recommend final approval of policy 2215, program of instruction.
You've heard the superintendent's recommendation.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? 4-0. Superintendent report.
I have two letters of condolences that were sent. One, Andrew Zimmerman lost his mother, Monica Loretta Zimmerman. He is the assistant principal at Eustis High School. Also, Linda Carter Countryman lost her son Tyler Moore, and Linda is a teacher assistant at Eustis Heights Elementary School. So condolences to those families. Just a few things to note. One of the items that you just approved on the consent agenda that I just want to call the public's attention to and thank the board. It's been a big concern of you all for a while in regards to our substitutes, and I know we've been wanting to do something with their salary. You did approve tonight an increase from $65 a day to $85 a day for substitutes, with a maximum, depending on their certifications, up to $115 a day. So thank you for approving that, and thank you to staff who brought that, did a lot of work on that. And also just a reminder that our 3 construction academies are all having their groundbreaking ceremonies. Either first one is this Friday, and there's 2 next week. Leesburg High, South Lake High, and Eustis High. Those will kick off, as I said, on Friday. And we're just really grateful to this community who's been so supportive of all of our construction academies, and now the partnership with Habitat for Humanity. All these students will be building a home for some very needy families, and it's a great project, and we look forward to seeing their work on these homes. And that's what I have for this evening.
Thank you. Okay, board member comments. Mrs. Luke?
I wanted to share that I had the opportunity to visit with my Eustis schools today, so I spent a lot of time in that area throughout the day, and they are working. They are working hard, and they are all hands on deck, and I got the sense of urgency and the sense of community from going to those buildings. And so more than anything, I will tell you that I want to say thank you. I know that this year looks different, and everybody seems to be handling it, which is what I think we're all trying to manage at this point with. I know our numbers of quarantine are high, but the principals that took the time to speak with me and show me around and like just conversate, just have real talk, were authentic when they said that the district is providing them what they need, that the district has continued to offer additional support and check in with them on a daily basis, that their people are coming together, that their nurses are amazing, that their mental health liaisons are stepping in, that their secretaries are stepping in, their bookkeepers are doing work, but everybody is coming together as a family. And so the one thing I will tell you that I left with was encouragement after speaking to all of those, the middle, the high, and the 2 elementary schools that were in Eustis. And so I plan to do the same thing for Umatilla, and I would encourage any of you that are feeling the weight of all of this, because I know that we all are, to go to your schools and see what's going on and have the conversations, because I did leave in a better place than I started this morning. So, thank you.
Mr. Dodd?
Yeah, absolutely. So as elected public servant, I think the last few weeks have just been so incredibly challenging, and to watch tonight, just be able to experience that in person is always, I think, one of those just sobering reminders of all the responsibilities we have as elected public servants. That I know we faced some pretty challenging issues in the past as a board, whether that's attendance boundary changes, right? When we, 3 of us had first stepped onto the board, that was a challenging one. When we walked through the school guardians, that was another challenging one. And here's, I think, another one that just promotes so much emotion and passion behind 2 sides of opinions. And I think what makes this one particularly challenging is that in all that division, I'm rarely seeing one person suddenly see the other side. You know, that as we've received so many email messages, and I try to correspond with those, or the phone calls, you know, there's, no matter what the opinion is on the other side of that phone, whether they are in support of masks or against masks, there's no seeing the other way. And I think that's one that I think puts us in a bit of a sticky situation. And that's where, you know, we as a board, you know, that I'm constantly reminded that last year we had this extensive meeting, talked and debated this for almost an entire half of a day, you know, 9 hours of time to come to some conclusion on safety protocols. And I try to remind folks that this board is certainly still just as dedicated as it ever has been, and just as caring about all of our people and our students as it ever has been. But this is a decision, as we've seen, that is outside of our particular hands. That as we are elected to follow the laws. And I've heard some folks kind of give some examples tonight of, well, couldn't students now just opt out of the dress code, or couldn't students opt out of this or that? Similarly, we're in a similar position where we don't get to pick and choose which laws or rules that come from the state that we want to opt out of. For fun, I did brainstorm an entire list of them. I've got a whole page, so next time we develop our lobbying efforts, I've got a lot of ideas of things that I would like to opt out of. But that choice is not given to us. So with that, I guess I just want to continue to echo some of the speakers tonight that called for civility, to recognize that we are humans as well, who are elected just as ordinary people to try to make the best decisions we can, but we also have to recognize that any decision that we make must also comply and follow the laws that we were elected and sworn to uphold. So I guess that's my food for thought tonight, and I continue to welcome the dialogue and just hope that it remains civil. Thank you.
Burns?
Yeah, I just wanted to talk about, well, multiple people have made this claim that a mandate with a parental opt-out is illegal. And our lawyer, I checked with our lawyer before that, and I know that's not true. Our legal counsel has sent us that and said it's not true. We could certainly do something with employees. And I understand this was not me. I mean, I assume most people think that like I arranged this or something, but I didn't. This was completely organic. And I just know that there's consequences, and right now we have 4,400 students, staff, and employees that in the last 2 weeks have been affected by this through either catching it or being quarantined. That is a enormous number and way beyond what we've ever had last year. Our local hospitals are full, people can't find beds. Our quarantine does not work, and I've had local pediatricians reach out to me, I've had parents reach out to me. Every school is doing quarantine different, every school has different testing rules. That's a total complete cluster. So I think that right now, our schools aren't stable. We have no standards we had like 35 children and adults quarantined at Treadway. We used to say that 3 cases would close a classroom, three classrooms would close a school. We had 5 classrooms at Treadway last week. I would like a full report of all classrooms that are closed. If our health department is unable to ever close down schools, I think our parents need to know that we're unable to close schools ever, because they need to understand that they have to pay attention to the numbers to watch for outbreaks. To me, when there was huge numbers, I opted to keep my 2 kids out of Treadway because I didn't see the point in putting them in just to have them be quarantined. Everyone I know has children quarantined. So I just think I'm a little, I don't know how we continue like this. So decisions have consequences, and we are definitely living them. That's all I have.
And I think that we've been together long enough, so meeting is adjourned.